Hey, I'm Nate Jepson, and I'm the principal at Collins High School. I'm going to start off by talking about our strengths. I think a strength of Collins High School is our culture and our climate. I think for the most part, our students really like being at school. I think our students all feel connected to one another, connected to whether it's a club or sport or activity. And I think our students, survey results show this, feel like they are connected to a caring adult, which is really important for students' growth. Beyond that, our advanced programs, our kids that are taking AP and dual credit classes. We have so many kids. More than half of our students will graduate having been in an AP or dual credit class, already having that college class, or college credit rather, before they get out of high school. For example, our AP program, last year we were on, and this year too, we were on the AP honor roll. The College Board puts out this list, and there were only 25 public high schools, non-application based in Kentucky, that made this list. And we were one of them, and that's because of the large number of our students that take AP classes, that pass AP classes, and that really through their whole high school career are in that program. Dual credit, again, is a strength as well. Another strength currently, and strength is our growth in ACT. So our seniors this year, they grew a half a point over the class ahead of them. And when you're looking at a composite ACT score, that is significant. So proud of that growth trend more than anything. And while we hit state average, I'm not like, hey, let's have a parade for state average. Bear in mind that a large number of our students aren't yet fluent in English. So when you look at having over 15% of our students aren't fluent in English, to achieve state average with a more challenging population really, I think, is saying something. As I transition then to, speaking of those students that aren't fluent in English, they were rated by the state as showing significant growth over the last testing cycle in their performance on the KSA. However, it wasn't enough. So we did show good growth, but in that EL group, in our monitored students, once a student is passed out of EL and they show fluency, those next several years, they're still closely monitored to watch their testing data. So while we did show large growth, that group is still considered TSI. That means we have targeted support and interventions for our students that are in that category. So that's obviously an area that we're hoping to continue to grow and hoping to exit that status. On a whole, another area for growth is our reading and math scores. Our 10th grade students from last year's test had a dip in the reading and math scores from the previous year. And so we're looking at what is that, working on good instruction and making sure our students are mastering standards and prepared. At the same time too, we're also looking at motivation. As we look into the test scores and we compare how did students do on those 8th grade reading and math scores to 10th grade, really the scores are kind of all over the map. Where students, it's a day in the life of the test of a teenager. So certainly that shows something. But when we have students that were distinguished in the 8th grade and now they're on the single-digit percentile and have gone down 86 percentile points, that's a real example, by the 10th grade test, I think they're probably click and putting their head down. And so we're already working on doing some reflections on testing effort and doing some rewards for students as well to try to get them in that mindset of performing their best on any kind of standardized test, even if they don't see that it necessarily affects them specifically. What are we focused on this year? Our focus for this year, we've got several. But really essentially getting down to basics. So one is that in our classes, our students have a clear understanding of what it is they need to do to be successful for that day. So that's the teachers have a clear learning target that they can point to. Guys, this is what we're going to learn about today, and here's the success criteria. Here's how you'll know if you mastered whatever standard, whatever topic that we're working on in class before you leave class today. And then that the teachers are assessing that, whether formally through a test or a quiz, or informally just for students doing some sort of reflective activity where they can self-assess and see where they are, and then we'll progress through that. Another thing that we want to focus on improving is our advisory and tighten time structures. So we have a 45-minute period in the middle of the day that some of our students and some of our teachers use really well, and historically not all of them have, and we want that across the board everywhere. So our advisory, using that time purposefully, whether that's working on defenses or working on social emotional learning, and then on our tighten time days that students are getting intervention, that they're working on raising grades in classes, they're going to retake assessments, they're going to work with teachers where they're falling behind and catch up. Or the flip of that, if they're doing great across the board in their classes, that they have an engaging enrichment activity that they can do that extends their learning beyond what they're doing in class. Third focus for our EL students and really for everybody is working on the academic vocabulary. If you're thinking about if you're reading a passage and there's a difficult word, a tendency among students might be to skip over that difficult word. Well, a lot of times that difficult word was key to understanding the whole passage, the whole topic. So for our teachers, to go over those key concepts and difficult vocabulary before getting into the lesson, so that whether they leave it up on the board or they have a place in their Google Classroom folder or something for students to go to, but a way for students to know when they come to that word, they can refer back or they've already heard that rather than just skip it and miss out on the whole point. That's great for our students that are learning English, and it's really good for anybody that might struggle with vocabulary. So the last area of focus for us is our co-teaching classrooms. Anytime we have two teachers in a room, we want to try to use high leverage strategies. So for our district, we're looking specifically at station rotations and parallel teaching. We're using those structures, and depending on how long the two teachers have worked together, how much support they've had, how much experience the special education co-teacher has with that subject, we're able to advance that more, and we're trying as the year goes to increase how often that's happening in our co-teach classrooms. What do we hope to accomplish before this year or by the end of this year? I just mentioned those goal areas, so we're hoping for school-wide success across the board. We're monitoring that. Our teachers, our admin team is doing regular walkthroughs in classes to see what's going on and to see, hey, whether it's looking for that academic vocabulary or those learning targets. We do walkthroughs on Titan Times and advisory days, and we're just trying to monitor to see how we're doing, and then we're adjusting our support for our teachers based on what we're observing in classes. And then obviously, in addition to meeting those goals, the hope is that if we're doing all the things we're aiming for correctly in our day-to-day classroom settings, that's going to pay dividends when it comes to testing, whether that's the ACT, KSA, even our students' career readiness tests that they take for their certifications, our AP exams, our dual credit, across the board, that our students are being successful on those testing environments. And what am I proud of at Collins High School? I think it comes back a lot to those strengths I talked about before, that culture of the school, that our students are feeling connected and have opportunities to be successful in high-level challenge areas. I think our students have just a lot of opportunities, and it's really cool to see kids plug into a lot of things, whatever that is. I think it's important that our students feel safe. In order to be successful, you've got to feel comfortable in an environment. We recently had a safety audit from the Kentucky Council of School Safety, and they were very complimentary of what we're doing. Obviously, some things we're tweaking because auditors are going to audit, but they said they were very impressed, and that across the board, out of the 120 students they interviewed, more than 10% of our school, that our students really felt connected at school, and they felt like it was a safe environment. And if you're comfortable, you have an opportunity to really expand your brain and take risks academically and intellectually. And then if I can point to one more thing that I'm proud of at Collins, is that we've really kind of gone from being one of the highest turnover schools in terms of teacher turnover to one of the lower turnover schools. We have really worked hard to try to build up a positive culture and to build into our teachers. We want our teachers to use their strengths, and year over year, if I talked about those co-teaching environments, if two teachers work together year after year, they can really get to know one another and know the content at a deeper level, and they can work together and be comfortable and take risks instructionally and try new things, and not have to start over every year with a fresh partner. Outside of co-teaching environments, you think about the PLC. We have a great PLC structure and system where our teachers work together, and they're looking at, planning together what lessons are we doing, and then they're also looking at how did the students do and how can we adjust. Well, when teachers have had a chance to work with the same people for a couple years, it really builds a sense of community and really builds a sense of in this together and trying to move things forward. And that's what we're trying to do at Collins High School. We want to keep moving forward.